Here's the situation. As the leader of the Jutes, you have placed a lot of faith and a lot of money onto your Huskals. However, your opponent has brought a devastating cavalry force that can flatten your men if left unchecked. Will the Axis reign supreme? How will you win? Welcome to another match in round 1 of the Fear the Forest tournament, and welcome yet again to Gortyna East-West. This match is played between Prussian Prince of the Agony clan and Arcticshieldbreaker from the Zeal clan. The Prussian Prince has gone with a somewhat potent build, earning a respectable 8 on 10 on the patented Blade Master ranking system. A cavalry corps of 6 noble Alanis is sure to destroy any opposing force. 2 Sarmatian Cataphract archers form a surprising bow cavalry addition to the army, although the lack of Parthian shot all but ensures these units have to rely on the impact damage from their charge to get them kills. A fast charge Alani general leads his troops for the Prussian Prince. This general ability is not used very often but could be a smart choice considering the Alani general unit is a shock cavalry that doesn't have a great base charge bonus. The infantry main line is composed of 4 noble Germanic swords in the center, with 2 elite Agathar warriors on the flanks to chop down man or beast and thus win the cavalry flanks. The biggest Agony Achilles heel for this army though is the inclusion of 3 Germanic bows. These units cost only slightly lower than the Germanic archers but lose the precious 200 range in the process. Finally, 2 Germanic brigands form the guerrilla component for this Alani army, although Prussian Prince doesn't really want to use them as such since they're kept right next to his main line. Arcticshieldbreaker on the other hand has brought a highly charge dependent army that nets him a respectable 7 on 10. A total of 4 Huskals and 2 Royal Huskals is, even in the most ideal world, overkill. 3 to 4 of these guys would be more than enough while not siphoning off all of his funds in the process. 5 Nordic Horse Lords fully ranked up with a cheap Nordic mounted raider forms his cavalry contingent, one that is by all means inferior to the noble Alanis. 2 Wolfcoats form his guerrilla contingent, although Shieldbreaker has wisely kept them in the midst of his main army. These units are not meant to attack anything but serve an important role as spotters in the army due to their excellent line of sight. A Nordic Warlord Brace general unit commands this army. Points to Shieldbreaker here for not succumbing to bringing a Nordic raid leader general who would be unnecessarily risky and inefficient. Finally, 4 Nordic bows form his skirmisher contingent, surprisingly giving him the edge in skirmishing over the Alans. What? Without further ado, let's get into the action. Arcticshieldbreaker really needs his Huskals and his Axeline to work for him in this game if he wants to win it. Meanwhile, the Prussian Prince is really putting a lot of faith into his noble Alani cavalry, but as we all know, putting your faith into extremely powerful melee cavalry is kind of the way to go in Attila if you want to win this. So that's why I gave Prussian Prince's army an upper edge just in terms of the ranking over this Jute army. In general, I think the Alans and Germanics, even in the previous patch, had an upper edge over the Nordic factions simply because the Nordic factions were basically a glass cannon faction, whereas especially the Alans and mostly the Germanics were very versatile. The Alans, they have the elite Agathar warriors if they wanted to, go full on crazy and charge in and get a lot of kills. But they also had the noble Germanic swordsmen if they wanted to hold the line and back them up with Germanic archers, who we all know had the extremely cost effective, or still have the extremely cost effective 200 range bows. But that said, the Prussian Prince definitely has his weaknesses in this with this build. The 3 Germanic bows are not going to pose a threat to the 4 Nordic bows. I think the Nordic bows will be able to win out. And then maybe with the few amounts of ammunition that Shieldbreaker would have, provided he kills off all of these Germanic bows, he can use it to target one of the elite Agathar warriors, which would be the best case scenario for him. The worst case would be if he doesn't kite enough and if the Prussian Prince gets the jump on him, thereby using his noble Alani cavalry to charge into his Huskals, which would be really bad for him. Also, bringing these 2 Sarmatian Cataphract archers, not really sure what the Prussian Prince's game plan is here, bringing these 2 units. They don't have Parthian shots, so they're not going to be very effective in terms of just skirmishing around. Maybe once the cavalry battle starts, he can use these units to just go around the flank and then start shooting heavy or flaming shot. into the cavalry blob. But when you already have the upper edge with the Noble Alani cavalry, although I'm not really sure they have the upper edge against fully ranked up Nordic horse lords, but at the very least they would do very, very well. When you have a cavalry situation like that, I'm not really sure if you want to risk the friendly fire that you would get from the Sarmatian Cataphract archers firing into the cavalry blob. But more than anything else, he can use these units as more mobile forces to just charge in and get kills just straight through impact damage. These units have medium mass, which means they'll get a lot of kills on the charge, especially against unbraced infantry. If he can use them to circle around and maybe charge into the Nordic warlord general, or some of these Huskals, then they'd get a lot of kills. Although charging into Huskals and Royal Huskals basically entails that they're going to get killed in the process, just from the high melee attack of those units. Here, the Nordic bows for Shieldbreaker are maneuvering around and getting some shots, or getting shot at by the Germanic bows. The Prussian Prince has a very favorable situation here, because his Germanic bows are in the forest, very wisely kept them inside the forest and forcing the Jutes to start trying to shoot their arrows into into tree cover. And Shieldbreaker has helped him that way by just maneuvering into his range. Meanwhile, he's gotten a fairly decent volley off onto the Sarmatian Cataphract archers. They have 27 armor, which is pretty decent for a horse archer unit, and they have very good health at 202. Those are their calling cards, but the fact that they don't have Parthian shot basically renders them useless from a skirmishing standpoint, as I mentioned earlier. It's going to be interesting how the cavalry battle pans out, because the Nordic horse lords definitely, well, I can't really say definitely, can I? 55, 32, 40, 27, 50, 17, 53 armor, 249 health, 247 health. I think the Nordic horse lords would just about win the cavalry battle against these Noble Alani. Of course, the Noble Alani have diamond formation, which would completely turn the tables in their favor. But the Royal Huskals, who are kept, and the regular Huskals who are kept behind these cavalry blobs, would be very influential if they can get proper charges in. Possibly more influential than the elite Agathyrsi, because they just simply outnumber them. And the elite Agathyrsi probably have to just they can be used to just try and attack the general in the meanwhile. But the point is that he has fewer numbers of aggressive units to help him win the battle. Of course, the Germanic brigands can also charge into the cavalry blob and then fire their javelins. Although they would probably do very little damage from that, considering they only have 4 volleys. It could probably take down quite a few cavalry units, but I just don't see that happening, to be honest. But I can actually, just thinking about it now, the Sarmatian Cataphract archers, I can see why the Prussian Prince brought them, because I think he understands that more than anything, just having more cavalry, no matter how useless they are, is very beneficial. But he could have just brought some cheaper cavalry. Oh no, he couldn't, because the rules specified max 6 melee and shock cavalry, not including your general. So he's managed to circumvent that by bringing 2 Sarmatian Cataphract archers. Very smart move from him. But yeah, I mean, it would be interesting to see how it plays out. If he can use them to charge into these Nordic bows, then that would be very good. So far, Shieldbreaker has done a very passive job in trying to attack the Prussian Prince. He needs to be focusing on these elite Agathyrsi, or even the Alani general. But instead, it seems like he's focusing on the I think he's focusing on the Germanic bows. But and he's moved back up into this little hill, which gives him some sort of forest protection. But it's just very passive so far from Arcticshieldbreaker. I'm not really digging the opening moves from him here. Of course, the Prussian Prince can afford to be he can afford to be passive, I think. He just simply has the advantage in terms of the builds here. So the Nordic horse lords about to charge in. Let's see how this pans out. It looks like they're about to get caught. Yep, they've gotten caught by Noble Alani. Meanwhile, a clean charge from Noble Alani against Nordic horse lords with the elite Agathyrsi ready to support. The Huskals could probably make it in there faster. No, they can't. Even with rapid advance, it's not like they're going to make it there. The Noble Alani getting a clean charge onto the the Nordic bows here. So is this one. And meanwhile, the Sarmatian Cataphract archers are in an excellent position if they can get a rear charge, and that would be excellent on those Huskals. Alani Cav moving behind. I think the Noble Germanic are in shield wall, so they won't do very well, to be honest. if Shieldbreaker gets a proper charge in, the shield wall is really not going to play any sort of effect here. The Royal Huskarls will just eat their way through these Noble Germanic swordsmen in a matter of seconds. Meanwhile, Nordic bows basically rendered ineffective. Noble Alani cavalry taking a ton of casualties though from these Royal Huskarls and the regular Huskarls here. So he needs the Cataphract Archers to prove their worth in terms of impact damage. Getting a downhill charge from them is an excellent move here. Let's try and see if the kills really rack up like how I predicted. Yep, you can see almost 40 kills on Huskarls just from impact damage alone. So they are very decent in that aspect. You can see these Royal Huskarls will probably take a ton of casualties there. But these Sarmatian Cataphract Archers are basically rendered ineffective after that. Meanwhile, Alani cavalry moving around, the Alani general is hale and healthy, and the Nordic warlord is actually not in a good position here. Possible ping-ponging opportunity here. Just charge into the Royal Huskarls and then charge into the Nordic warlord. The elite Agathosai warriors are also in an excellent position. It looks like the Prussian prince has got an attack order on these units, throwing their Franziska, getting a lot of kills on the Nordic warlord general, and then charging in with rapid advance. That is going to be the end of that Nordic warlord if things stay the same. Yep, we can. Wow, this is going to be very, very bad here. The Alani general getting a lot of kills, no, just 60 kills. Sarmatian Cataphract Archers did a good enough job just tying down the units, although they were not very cost effective at the end of the day. This Sarmatian Cataphract Archer did better though. Elite Agathosai rear charging Nordic warlord. The Nordic warlord is not going to like that. Meanwhile, the main line has stayed relatively strong for the Alans and for the Prussian prince. Germanic brigands actually doing a decent enough job getting a lot of kills on the Nordic horse lords. Yeah, Nordic horse lords. Alani cavalry managing to stay strong, holding out these Royal Huskarls, and the Germanic brigands are coming in there to support because they don't have anything else to do in this game. Noble Germanic swordsmen holding out against the Wolfcoats. Wolfcoats will not do anything. The Alani general though has died simply from the aggressiveness of these Huskarls, but the general is not dead. The Prussian prince's general is not dead yet, which is a huge deal. Meanwhile, the Nordic warlord, oh, this is this is pretty lucky for the Prussian prince. His general didn't die, but even though he routed earlier, but the Nordic warlord is dead, and of course we know that the Huskarls don't have the greatest morale. So that means that there's going to be a mass waver, like we can see here, and a mass rout right next to the general. And yeah, these Huskarls kind of staying strong, but yeah, that's it. This game is over. It was a very close game, and I think Shieldbreaker managed to pull it back after the earlier incidents, but just that was kind of bad luck on Shieldbreaker's part that his general managed to die. You have to remember that a general routing and a general dying are two different things. The general routed for the Prussian prince, but he didn't die. Meanwhile, the elite Agathosai basically ensured that the Nordic warlord was destroyed without getting any kills, and the general died, which gave that huge morale penalty, which is why the Jutes lost this game. Anyways, guys, that's the end of this battle. Hope you enjoyed, and stay tuned for more. Peace.